Vasco da Gama was a famous Portuguese explorer known for successfully finding a direct sea route from Europe to India. Vasco da Gama was born around 1460 in Sines, a port city located in the Alentejo region of Portugal. The Gama family was part of the nobility with roots related to the Portuguese dynasty. His father, Estevão da Gama, was a respected nobleman and a war hero who fought against the Moors during the Reconquista campaigns, where the Christian kingdoms sought to reclaim territories held by Muslims in the Iberian Peninsula. He was brought up in an environment full of great interest in maritime exploration and trade. At that time, Europe was experiencing the Renaissance, where knowledge, art, and exploration reached their peak. Spices such as cloves, pepper, cinnamon, and other spices from Asia were highly sought after in Europe. These spices were used as food flavorings, medicines, and symbols of social status. However, spice trade during that time was expensive and challenging because the main trade routes through the Middle East were controlled by Arab and Venetian merchants, who set high prices. Therefore, European explorers dreamed of finding a direct sea route to Asia that would avoid these intermediaries and reduce trade costs. Portugal, at that time, was a country with a strong maritime orientation, and the Portuguese rulers actively encouraged exploration and expeditions to uncharted territories. The presence of the ocean in major port cities such as Lisbon and Porto influenced Vasco da Gama's worldview and sparked his interest in maritime exploration and expeditions. Amidst the great interest in exploration and trade, Vasco da Gama dreamt of finding a direct sea route to Asia that would bypass the expensive and dangerous trade routes. His desire to find a new sea route to Asia led him to seek support from the then King of Portugal, Manuel I, who was also interested in expanding Portugal's influence in the outside world. On July 8, 1497, Vasco da Gama embarked on a crucial expedition in the history of maritime exploration. King Manuel I of Portugal ordered Vasco da Gama to lead the expedition to Asia with the aim of finding a new sea route to India. Vasco da Gama set sail with 3 carefully prepared ships for this expedition. The ships were São Gabriel, the main ship, commanded directly by Vasco da Gama; São Rafael, the second ship, led by Vasco da Gama's brother, Paulo da Gama; Berrio, the third ship, commanded by Nicolau Coelho. After leaving Lisbon, Vasco da Gama's ships sailed southwards past Cape of Good Hope, now Cape of Good Hope, South Africa, which was the southernmost tip of the African continent. After passing the Cape, their ships entered the Indian Ocean, heading eastwards, away from the African coast. The journey across the Indian Ocean to India presented great challenges to Vasco da Gama and his crew. The voyage was full of obstacles and difficulties, including storms that hit the ships and caused damage. Moreover, conditions on the ships deteriorated due to limited food and water supplies, as well as outbreaks of diseases that affected the crew. After a difficult journey that lasted nearly 11 months, Vasco da Gama's ships finally reached the southwest coast of India on May 20, 1498. They arrived at the port of Calicut, which was one of the significant spice trade centers in India. The arrival of Vasco da Gama and his crew in Calicut did not receive a warm welcome from the local traders and leaders. The Muslim traders who controlled the spice trade in the region felt threatened by the presence of foreigners from Europe. Moreover, there were difficulties in communicating and interacting with the local people due to language and cultural differences. After Vasco da Gama established a small trading post in Calicut, India, in 1498, he and his crew returned to Portugal in 1499. The journey back to Portugal from India was long and exhausting. During this return journey, the ship's crew faced various challenges, including shortages of food and drinking water. Due to the prolonged voyage and unpredictable weather conditions, the food and water supplies on the ships started to run out. The poor conditions on Vasco da Gama's ships led to the spread of diseases among the crew. Diseases such as scurvy, dysentery, and various infections spread rapidly among the sailors. Lack of nutrition and exhaustion worsened the crew's health conditions. The disease outbreak resulted in the death of several crew members. During the return journey, Vasco da Gama's ships made stops at several ports along the African and Middle Eastern coasts. At one of the ports in East Africa, Vasco da Gama got involved in a conflict with a local ruler. The ruler did not welcome the presence of foreigners from Europe in his territory, and the conflict led to clashes and battles between the two parties. Despite facing many difficulties, Vasco da Gama eventually managed to return to Portugal in 1499. However, the return journey left a bitter impression due to the loss of several crew members due to disease and conflicts with the local ruler. Vasco da Gama's presence and return to Portugal brought news of the discovery of a new sea route to India, opening up profitable trading opportunities for the Portuguese. Vasco da Gama's journey back to Portugal after successfully finding a new sea route to India marked a significant achievement in the history of maritime exploration. Although the return journey was challenging and difficult, its outcome opened the era of direct trade between Europe and Asia and provided a significant boost to world history.